Okay.
Okay, so good morning, everyone, especially our dear parents. So once again, I am Miss Ping Cuervo, and I am leading the transition team for the limited face-to-face class. So there's an old saying that goes, I don't care who you are or how much planning you've put into something because stuff goes wrong anyway. So that goes for any activities too. Disaster happens every day. And of course, no one can plan for possible scenario because life is unpredictable. But sabi nga nila, the show must go on. So same goes with our plan for the limited face-to-face class. We are preparing everything that this will be a success. But then again, we also have to prepare for possible scenarios along the way. And that is why we created the CPMS contingency plan. And we know that you parents have apprehensions about letting your child go for face-to-face. And we are here to make sure that the school is compliant with the minimum health standards set by the government. So the transition team planned out for this, and we presented this to the CPMS employees last school-wide meeting 2 weeks ago, and we even had our departmental meetings last week. So we just want to hear from them what are their what ifs and possible scenarios inside their environment. So let me present to you the initial contingency plan for the limited face-to-face class, and we will start with the body temperature check and symptom report procedure. So here, so at the entrance gate, we will set up a triage area where me and teacher Anna, our DRR officer, will be stationed. So there we will validate the health declaration form that the student filled out 30 minutes before going to school. So the student should declare that he or she and all other household members are symptoms free. And then the student will wash their hands in the portable sink, which we will also set up at the entrance gate, and they will also check the temperature through the thermal scanner. So if the student's temperature is below 37.5, he can now proceed to the classroom and will follow their classroom routine set by the teachers. But if the temperature is equal or above to 37.5, we will let the student rest for 5 minutes. So why do we need to let the child rest pa? Why not letting the child go home right away? So we will also consider the external factors that might be affecting the rise of the temperature. So just like, for example, the weather is init kaayo, so isa po na siya sa factor, so we will also consider. So after checking again the temperature, if below na siya 37.5, so again, the student can now proceed to the classroom. But if still equal or greater than 37.5, we will now deny the entry and let the child go home. Here's sa ubos teacher Judy, proceed to the classroom. So if ever the child is in the classroom na and the teacher observes that the student is unwell, or maybe na observe ni teacher nga nag-develop symptoms si student, so right away the teacher will inform the school nurse na si student is not feeling well, or na-observe niya nga maybe init si student. So right away the school nurse will pick up the student sa classroom and will bring him sa isolation room, which naanata here sa school. So nag-set up me separate room as an isolation room. One of the requirement po nag-set sa government na dapat ang school na adjud isolation room for the safety seal. So when the student is in the isolation room, the school nurse will then assess the child. Then right away will inform the parent to pick up the child and will gather data also and prepare for the disinfection. So once the student is at home, the school nurse will continue monitoring the child and will require the student for an RT-PCR test. So if the result is negative, we will let the student continue the home quarantine from the start of the symptoms. So if the alert level status is alert level 1, so 5 days for fully vaccinated. But if ang alert level is level 2, so 7 days na siya from the start of the symptoms. But for partially or unvaccinated, 10 days for both alert levels. So we use the term quarantine for a person who is asymptomatic but may be exposed to a confirmed case, or symptomatic but negative on RT-PCR test. So quarantine na siya ang term na ginagamit. And after the quarantine period, the student will be asked to submit a quarantine clearance certificate na makuha sa medical doctor. So ang quarantine clearance certificate is a certificate issued by a private physician or local health officer to a person who complies with a given quarantine period, stating that he or she is ready to go back to work or to school. So once submitted, the student can now go back to school. But what if the result is positive? So the student will isolate at home or in an isolation facility given by the government. So from the sample date collection na siya. Regardless of the alert level, we will follow the isolation guidelines set by the IATF, which is 7 days for fully vaccinated and 10 days for partially or unvaccinated. So here, Kai, we use the term isolation na. So what is isolation? It's a complete separation from others of a person who is positive case of COVID-19. So separated siya. So either isolation facility or naay room sa house nga siya ra jud usa, of course approved by the government also. So after the isolation period, the student will be asked to submit an isolation clearance certificate issued by the BHERT. So barangay na ang maghatag ani since na list man ang student as positive case sa barangay. So isolation clearance certificate is a certificate issued for the COVID-19 patients who have successfully completed their isolation period from the BHERT. So once submitted ang isolation clearance certificate, he can now go back to school as long as the child or all household members are symptom-free. So that's it for the body temperature. We will go now to the next slide, Teacher Jude, please, which is the detection, contact tracing, isolation, and reintegration procedure. So any student or employee will be screened if they have symptoms or none. So if symptom-free, he can now enter the school. But if naay symptoms si student or ang employee, so automatic we will require a RT-PCR test. So same no, if result is negative, so home quarantine siya. Same, alert level 1, 5 days. And then for alert level 2 is 7 days. But for partially or unvaccinated, 10 days. But if positive ang RT-PCR, so complete jud ang isolation from the sample collection date. Then 7 days for fully vaccinated, then 10 days for partially or unvaccinated. So if positive si student right away mag contact tracing ang school. So there's a contact tracing. We will do the assessment and evaluation, then report to barangay for testing of close contact. Then we will implement granular lockdown. So granular lockdown, since nga kung asa to nga environment positive, so dito lang siya nga environment i-lockdown, so not the whole school. Since dako man siya ang area nato, so we will not allow employees or students na maglabang-labang in each environment. So if ever na ang teacher kay need jud mo gawa, so na ay logbook, we have this contact tracing logbook in each environment para matrace na kung asa siya niadto, kung kinsa ang niadto sa kanang environment. So mas sayon siya, and then dili siya kailangan nga the whole school jud nang i-lockdown, so per environment lang siya. That's why granular lockdown. And then we will do the disinfection. So here sa granular lockdown, we see nga we need to follow nga 5 days jud nga mo transition ang class sa online learning again, kay also we need to monitor pa ang mga close contact kung nag-develop ba symptoms or or ang teacher ba ron ang nag-develop. So 5 days is conservative na para makita nato if na ay may na-develop. So if ever nga nagka-symptom to ang close contact, kay automatically RT-PCR test with dayon. And then we will disinfect the whole environment and katong ubang environment after the class sa katong naa diri sa school. So here sa ubos kay same ra gihapon no, isolation. After the isolation, kay if with symptoms pa, so continue isolation. Dili mo balik sa school si student unless na symptom free siya. And then same ang isubmit quarantine clearance certificate from the private physician if negative ang result, but if positive kay dito kuhaon sa barangay, isolation clearance certificate. So next, Teacher Jude, the next slide is coordination, command, and control flow. So how we will communicate with the parents, with the internally here sa school, and then saan na mo pag-communicate sa DepEd and sa Mandawi Health Office. So daghan siya nga sanga, kay we have also to communicate with sa DepEd and then sa Health Office. So if ever nga na ay positive case, so either confirmed siya or suspect, so i-inform right away si school nurse or ang atong DRR officer, which is Teacher Anna, and then we will disseminate the information to the school head, the assistant school head, and the department heads. And then the department heads will now inform the teachers, and then the teachers will inform the parents. But what if ang information is from the parent na, like for example, na sa house, then iabot na ang RT-PCR result. So the parent will inform the teacher, then the teacher will inform the school nurse. So simultaneous ang school nurse i-inform na po ang school head, then assistant school head, and the department heads. And then if ever daghan na jud cases ang school, kay ang school head mo report sa DepEd division office, and the division office will report to regional office, then central office. And then here's the side kay ang school nurse will inform ang barangay, be heard, and then ang barangay na ang mag-coordinate sa Mandawi Health Office to conduct rapid assessment survey sa school if naabay may nalabag sa mga protocols, if nga nagka-positive, siya. Then we will report pod ang mga status sa school. So kana siya. Next slide, Teacher Jude, please. So here we will present to you the timeline of activities. So April 8, which was yesterday, we had our MOPSI vaccination drive here in school. So daghan pod nga mga parents, CPMS parents and students may join. And then same day, yesterday is the deadline for the submission of the consent form. So I believe nga naa pa jud wala ka submit consent form. So may I remind lang po other parents na we will still accept signed consent form today and tomorrow. So we will finalize the documents on Monday so we can submit it by Monday afternoon sa DepEdsad. And then April 11, we will have our school-wide meeting, which is the dry run activity. So ang employees is mag-dry run, so they will act as student, na act as teacher, and as parents. So dry run mi unsaon na mo unsaon ang routine sa school. And then on April 20, inspection na ni siya. So team ni sila na ay team from DOH, from DepEd, DRRM sa Mandaue, then IATF, and sa barangay. So team ni sila mo ani sa school. They will check if na comply na to ang mga requirements for the school safety assessment tool. And then on May 11, as what Teacher Mar said, we will start the pilot class of the upper elementary. And then after that, kay May 23 ang start sa lower elementary and preschool, which is ang MEDP lang and katong bridging program.